Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 867 of the Juicebox Podcast. I had some good fortune recently, and I'm going to share it with you. I got to speak with Lewis. Lewis is 70 years old. He's had diabetes since he was in his 30s, and we're going to pick through his life. This is just such a great conversation. I can't begin to tell you how much I think you're going to enjoy it. While you're listening, of course, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Please always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. If you happen to be a U.S. resident who has type 1 diabetes or is the caregiver of someone with type 1, I would like to ask you kindly to go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Just join the registry and complete the survey. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. The questions you'll be asked are totally HIPAA compliant. You can remain absolutely anonymous, and your answers to simple questions about diabetes will help to move diabetes research forward. You want to help people with type 1 diabetes? Complete this survey. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Omnipod 5. Learn more at omnipod.com/juicebox. The Omnipod 5 is a tubeless automated insulin pump system that I'll tell you more about in the ads. You should check it out though. omnipod.com/juicebox. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Great. That's pretty much it then. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No. I just appreciate you asking me to do this podcast. My daughter-in-law listens to you every day.
Well, that's lovely. I appreciate you doing it. You have an interesting story. I can't wait to hear it. I'll tell you what, let's just keep going and start. You can introduce yourself. You don't need to use your last name. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I'll ask you a couple questions and we'll have a conversation.
All right. My name is Louis Mestis. I'm a 70-year-old retired educator. I served in the United States Marine Corps, which I'm very proud of. And I've had diabetes now for close to 38 years.
Wow. 38, 48, 58, 68. You were 32 when you got it?
Yes, sir.
And it was type 1?
Actually, they said it was type 2.
So at your diagnosis, you were told type 2. Did it turn out that you actually had type 2?
Yes, I guess so.
Isn't that interesting? So what was your management like back then? Did they give you a diet change, oral medication? Did you inject something?
It was really, really strange because I remember the doctor having the nurse came in. She brought in an orange and a syringe, and she kind of showed me how to do it. And that was basically the extent of the training I got.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I've learned to self-manage. I went to another doctor, and he said the same thing pretty much, that I would learn how to take care of myself more than possibly a doctor could because I knew my own body. But I struggled, and I've had two brothers who have passed away. One was 42, one was 40. They both were type 1 diabetes. And again, I think the most important thing I want to say is because of a lack of education, my brothers did not do well with diabetes. Yeah. My mother was not very knowledgeable. Back then, we approached the Diabetes Foundation for some assistance, and I'm talking now 30 some years ago, not now. But it seemed like they were more interested in donations than they were in assistance, and so I really wanted to send my brothers to camps so that they could learn how to manage.
Sure.
And now that's really available to people. I was on dialysis for a while, and thank God I was able to get a kidney transplant, and all of that was the result of poor management on the diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, thank God I'm doing pretty well now. I do have an insulin pump, the Tantum, that I use, and it has helped immensely.
Great. Lou, I want to pick through this a little bit, though. So you're 32 years old. When you're diagnosed, your brothers already have diabetes?
No, they were a lot. No, they one was probably 5 years old.
Louis, you had a 5-year-old brother when you were 32?
Well, wait a minute. Let me think about that for a minute. He was probably 12, maybe.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
Yeah, my
say.
mom had 9 kids.
Whoa, that's what I'm trying to get to. Your mom had 9 kids. Oh, that's
Yeah.
something else. So of 9 children, 2 had type 1 diabetes. I still think, I'm not sure what you have yet. Like, we're going to figure that out while we're talking. Was there any other diabetes in your family? Or how about other autoimmune stuff like thyroid issues or celiac disease, vitiligo, anything like that?
I have a brother that has factor 5.
Oh, geez.
And I have a sister that has low blood sugar. She's not a diabetic, but she has to watch her diet because every once in a while she'll go low.
Mm-hmm. And hold on a second. Factor 5. It's a blood clotting disorder?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second to figure out if that's autoimmune or not.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, I don't know why I told you that at the beginning.
No, it's okay.
It's not.
It's still interesting, but okay, yeah. All right. So I'm going back to you being diagnosed and getting given that syringe. So if they told you had type 2 diabetes?
That's what they told me.
But you were injecting insulin right away?
Immediately.
Regular and NPH? Or cloudy, and do you remember what it was called back then?
I think back then, I want to say it was like 70-30.
Okay. So, I mean, not for nothing, but that sounds like you have type 1 diabetes.
It could be.
And then they tell you type 2 because of your age.
That's true.
Because that's how their brains used to work. Over a certain age, if you have diabetes, it must be type 2. If it happens to you when you're a kid, you have the juvenile diabetes type 1. So, okay, so you manage like this going forward right away. Did they tell you about, because basically when you're shooting insulin like that, you're just putting in insulin and then eating at certain times, right? Like that's the extent of the management?
It was poor management because I was always chasing myself. When I think back now, I would check my blood sugar. I didn't know too much about correcting. I would just take insulin every time I ate. And so I would not take the insulin until either after I ate or while I was eating. And so constantly I was chasing myself. I know now that I need to take it 20 minutes before I eat.
Yeah.
So that I'm somewhat balanced.
Right. How long, I know this is a long time ago, but how long did you do the 70-30 and then when did it change? Because I'm assuming you've probably changed insulins 1 to maybe 3 or 4 times in your life, right?
Yes, I probably have tried every insulin there is. And what's so sad, a lot of it was determined by the insurance.
Yeah.
There were some insulins that the doctors recommended and the insurance wouldn't pay. Mm-hmm. So I'd go back and they'd say, well, okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
So that the insurance would pay.
At some point, I imagine you went on Lantus and Humalog?
Yes.
Do you remember about when that was?
Probably about 10 years ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And before 10 years ago, you were doing regular and MPH?
I think I was just doing regular.
Regular. Okay. And
I think that was the extent of my management.
With Lantus?
I was still young and active, and I think my body could take it, but it can't now.
Mm. And no one's ever said to you, You're type 1. It's always, have they ever checked you, done a C-peptide test or anything like that?
No, sir.
No. Okay. And so about 10 years ago, you go to Lantus and Humalog. Is that when you go to a pump?
No, I've only been on a pump less than a year.
Wow. You injected for 37
Yes.
years?
Yes.
Were you at least using a pen, or were they giving you syringes? How were you doing it?
Syringes.
No kidding. Do you?
Yeah, I used to prick my finger and use the syringes, and that's basically what my brothers did.
Yeah.
Again, I think the biggest thing I'd want to say today is get educated. The lack of education hurt my entire family.
Certainly.
And you're probably listening to this thinking like, well, golly, why didn't you do some research? Or we did to the extent that that's why we've changed so much now. And my grandson has it now. He's had it about a year.
Right.
And so, my son and my daughter-in-law especially are on top of it every day. They research constantly. They, of course, listen to you. They take him to all kinds of appointments and research management. They've got him on, they monitor it constantly on their phones, and they even have the school nurse monitor it as she walks by the classroom.
Louis, you're a good person to ask this to, but tell people, when you tried to learn something 38 years ago, there was asking a doctor or finding a book, right?
Basically, that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is that I don't know, I don't want this to come out wrong, but culturally, I think my diet hurt us as a family.
Okay.
You have to really, really discipline and monitor what you actually eat. Mm-hmm. Because culturally, a lot of very rich foods in carbs were available to us. That's what we had.
What are some of the staples of that diet, things you ate over and over again?
Like beans and tortillas and sweets. Mm-hmm. Just
a lot of rice with things.
Or no? Not so much rice, but a lot of potatoes.
Okay.
And fast foods like pizza. Oh my gosh. And it's amazing. Different foods affect me differently. I can eat one piece of pizza and I'm 400. Mm-hmm. I mean, pizza just, I try not to ever eat pizza.
Interesting. When you say pizza, do you mean from like a brand store like Domino's or Pizza Hut? Yeah.
Actually now any, and it just seems now as a selling product, they make it as big and as thick as they possibly can. Mm-hmm. So you buy it.
Yeah.
If I eat pizza, I get the thinnest possible pizza I can get.
Right.
And maybe one piece. But, when you're uneducated and young and hungry and you eat 3 or 4 pieces, and then you wonder why you're 500.
Louis, I imagine there's a special place in hell for the first person that said, we could put cheese inside of the crust.
Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just,
yeah. Right. That's not a valuable use of marketing. Okay. So, and listen, you said once or twice something that made me want to ask, did you, as an adult, were your finances an issue?
In the beginning, they were.
And you had diabetes at that point.
When you start out as a teacher 40 years ago, my first contract was $9,000 as a classroom teacher.
Wow.
And then you have a couple of kids. Insulin used to be extremely expensive, unbelievably expensive.
Did your diabetes shape the way you build a family? Were you thinking more children than you ended up having, or did you do about what you wanted to do?
No, that I know it has my other brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
They've either had one child or uh, 2 at the most. But we had 3 children, and we didn't think about the diabetes.
Right. And then your 3 kids don't have type 1 diabetes at all, but your grandchild does.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And wow. Okay. Hold on a second. I have to center myself here for a second. It's funny. When you said how much your first teaching contract was, it made me feel bad. Guilty. I actually felt guilty.
Yeah. $9,000 is what I started out with.
Yeah. Geez. I mean, listen, 40 years ago, I was 11 years old, but I got my first job 2 years after that. I cleaned up a pet shop after school and ran the cash register, and I made $3 an hour to do that.
Golly. So. Yeah. I tell my grandkids this kind of stories now, and they just, I don't think they realize, we used to work for $1 an hour.
Yeah.
As a kid.
No, I know. So, what kind of teacher were you?
I was a history teacher, and for many years I taught New Mexico history and civics.
Mm-hmm. To what age groups? Did you jump around, or did you stay in
all middle school?
Middle school.
I was always in middle school.
Okay. During that time, you're just injecting what, twice a day? Morning and at dinner?
When I first started out, I was pretty frightened of the whole process. So, as I said, I think the biggest culprit with diabetes, when you don't have a lot of knowledge, is you're constantly chasing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that you either don't take enough insulin or you take too much, and you take it too late. Now we all know that you've got to take your insulin 20, 30 minutes before you eat. Mm, yeah. And you've got to be able to figure out what you're going to eat. And that's why I like, and I'm not pushing any particular one, but I use a Tandem, and it does all the math for you.
Yeah. Are you using Control IQ? Are you wearing a Dexcom as well?
Yes.
Wow. Good. But that's a big change, huh?
Oh my God. It's like life changing. And I owe a lot of it to my daughter-in-law. She is just, she's like the family blessing.
Yeah.
And, anything I need to know, I call her. But basically, I now understand the importance of technology and knowledge if you're going to live with diabetes.
Mm-hmm. So, Louis, is it fair to say that your understanding of diabetes at the core of it is about how insulin works, the timing of the insulin, and how food impacts you? Like, those are the 2 major things that you pay attention to.
Yeah, basically. And I think your body changes, because I know I went through a period of time where, I don't know, I call it honeymoon, because in the 40 some years I've had it, there are times when I'm almost insulin resistant, and I have to take more insulin. Mm-hmm. Then there are times, periods of over like 40 years where it just seemed like, I don't know. I don't want to say that I didn't have diabetes at the time, but there were times when like my blood sugars ran really great for long periods of time. And then, there were nothing over these 40 years for me to be walking around with a 500 blood sugar level.
Mm-hmm. And you weren't paying attention to the level that you are now. So if back then, if you, I don't know, took on a home project and were very active outdoors for a week or something like that and needed less insulin, that wouldn't have occurred to you then that might be one of the reasons why.
Correct.
Yeah. You weren't thinking about it that way.
No.
At what age do you realize that you're having complications? My daughter Arden began wearing the Omnipod tubeless insulin pump on February 4th, 2009. That was 5,093 days ago. Or another way to think of it, 1,697 pods ago. At that time, she was 4 years old. Hang out with me for a moment while I tell you more about the Omnipod. Omnipod.com/juicebox. Today, Arden is 18 and still wearing Omnipod. Back then, there was one choice, just one pod. But today, you have a decision to make. Do you want the Omnipod 5, the first and only tubeless automated insulin delivery system to integrate with the Dexcom G6? Because if you do, it's available right now for people with type 1 diabetes ages 2 years and older. The Omnipod 5 is an algorithm-based pump that features Smart Adjust technology. That means that the Omnipod 5 is adjusting insulin delivery based on your customized target glucose. That's helping you to protect against high and low blood sugars, both day and night, automatically. Both the Omnipod 5 and the Omnipod DASH are waterproof. You can wear them while you're playing sports, swimming, in the shower, the bathtub, anywhere really. That kind of freedom, coupled with a tubeless pump. You understand it's not connected to anything. The controller is not connected to the pod. The pod is not connected to anything. You're wearing it on the body tubelessly. No tubing to get caught on doorknobs or anywhere else that tubing with those other insulin pumps can get caught. Omnipod.com/juicebox. That's where you go to find out more. You may be eligible for a free 30-day trial of the Omnipod DASH. You should check that out too when you get to my link, omnipod.com/juicebox. So if you're looking for an insulin pump that is tubeless, waterproof, and automated, you're looking for the Omnipod 5. If you want to do it on your own and you're not looking for the automation, Omnipod DASH. For full safety, risk information, and free trial terms and conditions, please also visit omnipod.com/juicebox. Gvoke HypoPen has no visible needle and is a premixed autoinjector of glucagon for treatment of very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes ages 2 and above. Find out more. Go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with insulinoma or pheochromocytoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. There are links in the show notes of the podcast player you're listening in now, and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to all of the sponsors. At what age do you realize that you're having complications?
Probably, after my brother's passed, which has been about 10 to 12 years, I knew I was really in trouble because I knew where I was headed. And that's about the time my doctor told me, you have got to get on dialysis.
Wow.
Of course, I fought it. And, one day he just said, look, you're lucky you live in America. If you lived in my country, I'd be telling you to get ready to die. And so I was on dialysis for 4.5 years. And I chose peritoneal dialysis. Mm-hmm. So I had a tube in my stomach, and I hooked up to a machine every night. And these 3 bags of solution would go into my belly, and through osmosis, I, cleared the impurities from my body, and got up in the morning, and there was another bag full of this bad solution, and I'd empty it, and I'd go on to work. I did peritoneal dialysis for 4.5 years. And during that time, I was a school principal. So, you do what you have to do if you want to live.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions around that story. So my first one is, what do you mean you resisted it when the doctor said you need dialysis?
I didn't want to go on it. I just said, well, let's just see where this goes.
Where'd you think it was going to go?
You know, along with
and
along with diabetes, sometimes you have some really serious mood swings. I'm not talking about to the extent of depression, and maybe so, but you diabetes creates some real serious mood swings.
It does.
By the grace of God, I have the most wonderful wife, and luckily she is a nurse. And again, I'm blessed because a lot of her background is diabetic care.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's aware of many of the things that are happening to me. So people with diabetes need to surround themselves with either a support group or people that are very knowledgeable.
Can you tell me some of the ways that your wife's been helpful to you?
Well, just her vast knowledge. She constantly monitors me. She's such, an assistance. Like, before I got on the tandem, she was constantly like, "Have you checked your blood sugar? What are you going to eat? You better think about whether you want to eat that or not."
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't nagging; it was helping.
Yeah, no, making up where you, I don't know. Would you say that you were ignoring it or just? Not?
Yeah, you have a tendency to ignore it.
Yeah,
you just have a tendency. It's just it's bad, and you still.
Is it that you don't want to have diabetes, and you get a moment where you just want to not think about it?
I've gone through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people I'm as close to being an alcoholic as an alcoholic because, I know certain foods are killing me and I still eat it.
Mm.
It just, that saying from the good book, Lord, the things I should be doing, I continue to do.
Do you think it's from your childhood? Do you eat food that you remember fondly?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of Mexican food, and even now, I know tortillas are killing me, but boy, I want to eat them.
Not going to buy a low carb tortilla, Louis?
Well, we do that now.
Good.
I know better now. And I get the smallest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's where my wife comes in. She buys the smallest ones. They're not the huge one, and they're low carb.
Yeah. Do you feel fortunate to be 70?
Oh my God. I after my brothers passed and, after what I've experienced, God's got me alive for some reason. Mm-hmm. I'm still having to do something for, God, but,
is there any, I'm sorry, I'm picking through your life like this, but is there any guilt? Like, because you were basically saved because you saw the experience of your brothers, and that, I'm assuming, motivated you to move forward. Do you ever think, well, is what happened to me first? Maybe one of them would have been motivated to move forward, or is that not something you think about?
I regret every day that we didn't seek out help for them.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart when I think about them, that we weren't knowledgeable enough to help them, mm-hmm. That we didn't reach out for help.
Do you think you knew you needed it?
No,
you were doing what you were told, right?
It's just that stubbornness of, I'm in charge, and I'm not saying anything about being, I think sometimes we get so busy in life, we forget what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. You and I, Louis, think about this very similarly. I carry some guilt, but for the people listening. So I I know I have this thing that helps people, and then it feels like I'm supposed to find them and make sure they listen to it. And
well, thank God. You're on a mission. You're actually on a mission, and like I said, I found out about you through my daughter-in-law because she listens to you constantly, and she reached out to after the Super Bowl to the receiver who has type 1 diabetes, and he did a podcast for my grandson and told him, that he had diabetes in high school, and to manage it, and encouraged him to manage it, and encouraged him to go on.
That's wonderful.
So,
this past Super Bowl or before?
Yes, this past Super Bowl. In fact, he contacted my grandson the day after the Super Bowl. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, that's amazing.
I just couldn't believe it. And so I think people with diabetes want to help other people so that they don't go through what, like I tell my grandson, and he's starting to understand that now because he plays basketball, high school basketball.
Yeah.
And some days he says, Grandpa, my legs and feet feel like concrete. And, we all know that experience when we're high.
Yeah.
When you're 300 or 400 or 500, I've been so high at times that, I can even hardly walk.
Right. And so let me think, you had a pump before the Tandem. What was your first pump? Medtronic, right?
No. Tandem is my first pump.
Oh, Tandem's your first pump. Excuse me. That's right. I'm sorry. I'm confusing myself.
No problem.
When you get a pump, is the transition, is it difficult for you, or did you find it relatively easy?
Very easy. I worried about it, and I shouldn't have.
Okay.
The training is pretty simple. It's pretty easy to manage. It's just amazing. It's a miracle to me.
No, I know. And so now what about a CGM? Did you get them at the same time? Did you get Dexcom and Tandem at the same time, or did you get one?
No, I wanted the Dexcom first so I could manage it. Before the Dexcom, I had a Libre.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great too. That was a great product. I was able to really monitor myself on my phone with the Freestyle Libre. But then when I was going to the Tandem, I had to switch over to the Dexcom because they read each other.
Right. Yeah, they talk to each other. And so right now, your pump is an algorithm. It's taking away and giving you insulin, and you're basically telling it when you take carbs.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, of course, again, my daughter-in-law, she set up on my phone the app, Calorie King. Mm-hmm. So, I just open that up, or I say to my phone, "Hey Siri, how many carbs are in a tortilla?" And, I get the information that way. And again, so right now in this day and age, there's so much technology around you that you could actually really help yourself.
Yeah. And it's better, right? To do the work, put in the effort. You're going to put effort in somewhere is what I always tell people, right? Like, might as well put it in up front and avoid, because the back end effort's always cleaning up a dumpster fire or a health issue or something like that. You might as well,
Correct.
Yeah, do it first and save yourself the trouble.
Correct.
Yeah, you're going to do it somewhere. So,
well, I'm pretty hard-headed, and so it took me a lot of years to finally get to where I'm at. Again, I'm grateful for my life. I am shocked that I'm still alive after. Now, I've only had to call an ambulance one time in the 40 years that I've had it. But
for a low blood sugar?
Yeah, low blood sugar.
Well, in fairness, was your blood sugar mostly high?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Most of my life I've been high.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not literally, but I mean, blood sugar wise.
Louis, is there anything else you want to talk about today? You smoking a little weed?
No, not at all. But when I'm talking high, I'm not talking 200s. I'm talking
Yeah.
500.
Right. Well, you have the mixture of not really understanding how to manage on top of difficult foods.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's going to drive you up like that.
Correct.
So how long were you on the CGM before the pump?
I don't know, a couple of years.
Couple of years. So did you start adjusting then? Did you start saying, I don't think I'm using enough basal insulin, or I think I'm not injecting
Yes.
enough at meals?
Yes.
Yeah. Are those
So probably
adjustments? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
probably in the last, like I said, probably in the last 5 years, I've become very, very serious about managing it because my grandkids are getting older, and I want to live to see them graduate from high school, and I just want to see them grow. I've got 5 grandkids,
Yeah.
and they're all either in elementary or high school, and I want to manage this every day so that I can see them and continue loving them.
How long ago did your grandson get diagnosed? Do you know?
A year ago.
Just a year. So 5 years ago. See, I'm going to tell you something, because I've spoken to, I don't know, you're up to about 1,000. I'm up to about 1,000 people having a conversation with, right? And most people as adults make a health change for the love of something else, for a spouse or a child or a way of life, or you'd be surprised how few people say, I wanted to take better care of myself. Like it's very interesting that people have such a hard time doing something for themselves. But when it's for someone else, to see your grandchildren or something like that, then it's not hard at all for some reason.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I want to live every day now. My grandson is in a track meet Friday evening, and I want to be there.
Yeah.
And I want to be feeling well when I go to the track meet. I don't want to be my heart racing or my legs feeling like concrete. I want to be a normal human being at a track meet watching my grandson.
Yeah, it's a good message. It really is. Okay, so you get the Dexcom, you make adjustments to your insulin, you start seeing how foods impact you more. When you move to the pump, is the pump initially in your mind just to ignore, like, so you don't have to inject anymore, or do you have a mind on the algorithm and letting that do the work?
The thing I like the most about it is it does the math for you.
Okay.
It does all the math for you, and you just gotta, rely on it. And I'm relying on it now, and it's working. I'm anxious to see what my hemoglobin A1C is this next time around. I used to run 11.
Wow. Yeah. And what were you last time?
9.7, I believe.
Okay. And you're shooting for lower and lower. You're trying to bring it down.
I'm hoping someday to get to like a 7.5.
Wow. I bet you
7.
could. Listen, I bet you could. Have you made any adjustments to the way you fuel yourself with food, or has that been the hardest thing?
Yeah, I've had to make adjustments. I don't eat as much. I certainly monitor what I eat now, and I stay away from certain foods.
Yeah, but
I just have a hard time with pastas and pizza, and it just, like I said, I can eat 1 or 2 pieces of a large pizza, and I'm 450
for hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think when you see a big number like that, do you think to put in more insulin, or do you let it ride out?
No, I put in more insulin. And like I said, that's why I don't do that anymore, because that's when I was chasing myself.
Yeah.
What I call chasing myself. I was always chasing myself. I was never ahead of the race.
I think that one of the things that gets lost when people aren't given good education and don't understand how insulin works is that I think it can feel like that what you're doing right now is for right now, but it's not, right? Insulin now is for later.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's, I've talked about it a number of different ways on here, but sometimes it's like a confusing, like a time travel movie. Like you don't know exactly where you are. There's something happened in this timeline. There's something happened in this timeline. But when you start realizing that that's true, that the insulin is living on its own timeline and the impact of the food is living on its own, and you need to artificially manipulate it so that they're doing their things at the same time. And that's all that pre-bolusing is. It's giving the insulin a chance to get working so that when the food hits you, it's a fair fight at that point.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
I like the way you put that. Yes.
Thank you. But you figured that out on your own as well.
After 40 damn years.
Louis like, I didn't give up and I figured it out. It took 40 years. Do you listen to the podcast or you let your daughter-in-law tell you stuff from it?
I want to start listening to it. I guarantee you.
I have a series called Diabetes Pro Tip. I bet you might enjoy, where it's very management based, but we also have a ton of conversations with people all ages like you, just telling stories about the things they've done, because I think that is also valuable for people. Oftentimes, I don't believe that people learn by being read a bullet list of information. Do this and this and this. I think
correct.
You hear somebody else say it and think, "Huh? I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me." Like I can see how that fits into my life. I'm going to take a look at that. I want to bounce back a little bit though. You're on dialysis for those 4 years or so. Did you ever think you were getting a kidney?
I prayed for one, and I didn't ever think I was going to get one. And by the grace of God, 6 years ago on Easter Sunday, I get a call from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they said, actually, I got called 3 times. The first time, by the time I got to Albuquerque from Roswell, which is 3 hours, they found out that the individual had hepatitis, so I lost that kidney. Mm-hmm. The second time, the doctor that was farming the kidney had cut the ureter too short, so I didn't get that kidney. But on the third time, I got there, and thank God, everything went well, and I had the kidney transplant, and I was very grateful for the family that gave their mother's kidney to me.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's a selfless thing to do.
And I want to take a moment to tell everybody to please be a donor. Please be a donor.
Yeah. No, I mean look what had to happen. 3 people who were donors till you get yours.
Correct.
Yeah, because other things can happen. So you are on a cocktail of anti-rejection medications now?
Yes, I am. I take quite a bit of medications in the morning. They're anti-rejection. And thank goodness, my gosh, my insurance covers them. It's just, it's just,
it's a teacher's
it's
union.
A miracle.
It's a teacher's union, right? They set you up in retirement.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah, wow. Do you have any side effects from the anti-rejection meds?
Well, a little bit of weight gain from the some of the medication that I take, prednisone.
Yeah, that one, the steroid's tough, right?
Yes.
And does it make you more insulin resistant? Do you feel?
Well, you have to monitor it more. There are a lot of medications that you take that affect your insulin. So being conscious and aware of that.
Do you feel, I'm going to tell you a silly story. So, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, Louis, because it's embarrassing, but I got bit by a bug and I had a systemic reaction. And they put me on prednisone for like 10 days. And for 10 days, I felt like Superman. My back didn't hurt anymore. All my aches and pains are gone. Yeah,
Isn't
right.
that the truth?
Yeah, my goodness, right? And do you have some of that benefit, or does that go away after a while when you're on it?
Uh, it goes away after a while, but I know exactly what you're talking about. How well it makes you feel
Mm.
physically.
15 years
But
younger. I felt 15 years younger for 10 days.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then I went off of it, and 3 days later, I was like, my back hurts again. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, I wasn't sure if that's the question I had, was that, does it keep happening? Because I didn't think it would. Eventually, it's got to lose its impact, I would imagine.
Right, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
What'd you do for those 10 days?
A lot of yard work, a lot of Well, I got a lot done.
I bet. It's funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I know. I mean, I want to ask about the surgery. So you go. First of all, it must be even hard to be hopeful the third time driving to the hospital. But you get there and actually things are working out for you. What's the surgery like, and what's the recovery like?
Uh, you know, the first day after the surgery was a little tough because the doctor put it that the kidney hadn't woken up yet, and so it didn't start right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I laid in that bed and prayed, and I was hoping that it would work. And by the second day, it started working, and it's been working ever since. So there wasn't a lot of pain to it, to be honest with you. When I think back now, the recovery was really, really good. My sister, Eileen, who is a nurse, and of course my wife, who is a nurse, nursed me to health pretty quick. That month that I was in recovery.
I bet you they didn't let you lay around too long, huh? I had oh God, I had why can't I think of the word? My appendix went bad on me, and I had it out, and the doctor told me, to rest in bed for a week. And on the third day, my wife comes in, she opens up the shades, and she's like, "Come on, we're going to go outside and rake leaves." And I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. She goes, "You'll be all right. Let's go." And so I was out there like, oh God, this hurts. But she got me moving. And I'll tell you, I would have laid around for sure if she didn't do that. So.
Got you. What's also kind of funny is that a couple of days after the surgery, had this fantastic doctor in Albuquerque. And he goes, "Well, I hope you don't mind." He goes, "You had a hernia. So while I was in there, I took care of your hernia and took it out."
You should have told him. You should have gave me a pancreas while you were in there too.
Yeah. So I got a 2-for-1. Yeah. I got a kidney transplant, and he removed the hernia. Yeah. So, I thought that was kind of a neat thing.
Like a coupon day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's excellent. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Did they talk to you about a pancreas transplant at the same time, or no?
No, they have not.
Okay.
And I haven't, my wife has brought that up several times, but right now I'm holding and I'm doing well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Louis, it goes without saying you're doing amazing. Honestly,
it's amazing. I tell my wife this daily. It's amazing, the human body, just the human body, and how we abuse it. Like I said, I don't know how many times I must have been 400 or 500, and the damage it was doing to my body. But the body's just amazing. I mean, there has to be a God.
Well, if you put those pizza slices in the gas tank of your car, it would stop running. And somehow your body looks at that and says, "All right, well, I can't believe you did this, but I'll figure out a way to get through it and keep you going." Yeah, it is.
Got you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And obviously it takes a toll, but you're right. Like we eat things that we shouldn't be eating, and it just keeps going somehow. And it is astonishing. It really is.
Yeah. I'm a lot better now regarding health-wise, because I don't have as much neuropathy as I used to. As you well experienced, I went through a period of time where my feet actually burned,
Mm-hmm.
and my fingertips burned. I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So I know I'm in so much better shape than I was in previous years.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the neuropathy that I used to have.
Right. No, I mean, I hear that story from people all the time, especially ones who are running around like you were with an 11 A1C. Sometimes when they better their A1C, their variability, get their blood sugars down, find some stability, some of that stuff does go away. And,
Right.
or at least it slows it. I've had people tell me like that their eyesight was deteriorating and it's gotten better, or it held where it was and didn't continue to get worse. Like you are doing you're not asking as much of your body, and you're slowing down the impact that those blood sugars are having. Yeah.
When I think back about one of my brothers, Thomas, he lost a toe. It really affected his eyes. He lost an eye, and he really suffered. I mean, he really, really suffered.
Were you close to them as adults? Do you know, was he just not taking insulin at all, or?
Again, I think it was the diet. Lots and lots of high carb Mexican food.
Yeah.
And the bad part about it is we love it. And so, and I just think he was a banker, a very successful banker. And I think he was just so busy, he didn't take care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He just thought every day he'd get up and go to work. He was more interested in working instead of management.
Yeah. Well, listen, he probably had exactly what you had when that doctor said, you're going to go on dialysis. You're like, nah, I'll be okay. I don't need that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be okay. I'll get to it. It makes me wonder while you're talking, because you're so thoughtful about the reasons why things happen. It makes me wonder, when people get done listening to this, are we going to send more people to lunch to buy tortillas, or more people to lunch to get something healthy to eat? I
hope so.
Yeah. I wonder if it's interesting how people's minds work, I mean, especially in the face of it like this, like you mentioned earlier, just knowing like I'm doing something right now, it is killing me. And you're like, right. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. And I can't fault people. I'm a pretty conservative person, so I can't sit here and say, God, why are those people doing drugs? Mm-hmm. I mean, when I myself, the foods that I eat are my drugs.
Sure.
And that's the way I have to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I was just having this conversation with somebody. I think their episode will come out before yours, but it's the dopamine that like you eat that food and your body, your brain gets happy, and then it just doesn't last very long. And how do you make it happy again? You feed it again, and the sugar and the fat and the dopamine comes. And to your point, some people get that from pills, some people get that from drugs, some people get it from risky behavior, like that kind of stuff. You got it from food.
I like the way you put that, because that's exactly, it's a vicious cycle. Mm-hmm. And you have to just decide, you either have to substitute one desire for another, or you have to just not, you have to avoid it.
Yeah. Listen, the people who exercise a lot, that's where they get it from. They get
right,
that, get like an endorphin rush from exercise, and they make it so that being healthy is a value to them. So that's the thing they derive happiness from. Like, they want to be healthy. So when they are healthy or fit or working out, they're happy about that. You're happy because you were eating foods that you remembered from your childhood, and probably built pictures in your mind of 9 kids sitting around and big meals and fun and stuff like that. It's just, It's just what happens. Like, everybody gets a thing. Shifting from one of those to another proves to be difficult for people, and that's all, it's all very understandable. It's just the truth. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's just it. Basically, you just have to fight that battle every day.
Yep. Find something else to be happy about.
Right.
Yeah. Other than, because now, damn it, Louis, I'm going to end up eating a tortilla if I don't stop talking about it. I'm starting to think about, maybe I could like make some chicken. I have rice in the fridge I could throw together with it. You said potatoes. That sounds like a great idea. But I won't. Don't worry. I'm going to go downstairs and eat something that keeps my old ass alive a little longer. So
got you.
Yeah.
And over the years, you learn the game. It may say sugar-free, but it's got fructose in it. So they get away with it by saying, oh, yeah, it's a sugar-free product. But they don't tell you the fructose is going to kill you if you eat it.
Yeah, we used a bunch of artificial sweeteners, or there's so much fat in it. And, you know, and by the way, when you eat something that they say is fat-free, my example is always like shaved ice, like water ice or something like that. And the sign says, oh, it's fat free. But the minute you eat it, your body takes that glucose and turns it into fat and stores it as fat. So, you're getting away with it for 5 seconds, but then something happens on the other side. Listen, the truth is it's clean food. You need to eat things that you look at and know what they are. This is a piece of chicken. I know what that is. This is a broccoli, a head of broccoli. I know what that is. You start, I don't know how they make pizza dough for Domino's Pizza. I don't know what's in it, and you don't either. Yeah. And at least if you made that at home, you took a little. I do it here once in a while. I'll make a Neapolitan pizza here, but I see it. It's salt and flour and water. That's what the dough is. Just that. Right. Even store-bought tortillas are probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's some chemicals in there. Yeah.
Chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Okay. So that the surgery wasn't too much trouble and you haven't had to do dialysis. I'm assuming the dialysis was a heavy lift, right? There's a long 4 years.
That was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. You have to really, really, I went to see my nephew in Boston, and to this day, he tells me, he goes, I don't know how you did it, but you have to plan and ship the solution to the motel you're going to be in. And hopefully when you get there that, it's there. Mm-hmm. And then the machine that you carry at an airport, it's a nightmare because they all want to open it up and touch it and see what's going on. And you have to tell them, hey, that's my kidney. Don't touch that. Well, I've got gloves on. I said, yeah, but you've touched 100 things before you're touching my machine. And so it'd always be an argument at an airport.
Right. Yeah. And you're safe with the gloves on. My machine's not.
Right. And so it was a nightmare to carry all that equipment around and travel, but you do it. You do it. And, but thank God I don't do it anymore. I just thank God every day that I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. No, it's a mindset to get you through something like that. But when you don't see a for certain end date to it, it's not like somebody said to you, hey, you got to go on dialysis, but don't worry, 17 months from now, there'll be a kidney here. You were just one day at a time, hoping somebody, and even, is that not strange, hoping that someone passes away so that you can get a kidney?
I know. Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Just, and I know people now that have been waiting for years for a kidney, and they're still on dialysis.
How did you get lucky?
I thought the peritoneal dialysis was a lot easier than going to I used to call it the chamber. Mm-hmm. My brothers did dialysis, both of them. One brother was a teacher also, and he would go at 5 a.m, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he'd go at 5 a.m, and he'd be there for 3 or 4 hours. And his planning period was first period, so his principal worked with him. And I don't know how he did it because, sometimes it's pretty exhausting when you're on dialysis. The thing that really affected me when I was on dialysis were the cramps. I used to have unbelievable cramps. I've never had one since. But when I was on dialysis, the cramps alone would just, I had one so bad I just cried one time. I just couldn't take the pain anymore.
Yeah. Debilitating. Did the kids know? Did the people you worked with know?
Some of them did. I have to tell you a quick story. We used to have a back to school dance every year. And I had hired two new teachers, two young ladies. And one of the ladies says, "We're still having a back to school dance." And I said, "Yeah, we are." I said, "But I'll be here," I said, "until 9 o'clock. And then I've got to go hook up." And I happened to look over at those two young teachers, and they're looking at each other like, "What's he talking about?" You know, I got to go hook up. The other teachers knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So one of the teachers turned over to, turned to them and said, "He's on dialysis. He's got to hook up to a machine." And that was kind of a big laugh.
Well, they thought you had a lady waiting. That's why.
I guess so.
Well, you do. You got your wife at home.
But and I admired, people that are on peritoneal. I knew a coach that he'd be on the school bus with the kids, and he'd be doing peritoneal dialysis. He'd have the bag up tied it to a pole, and he'd be hooked up on a way to a game doing dialysis. So if you want to live, you do it.
Yeah.
But it's not a good way to live like that. So that's why we go back to management. I don't want to irritate my grandson, but a lot of times I tell him, I said, "Izzy," and I don't want to scare him, but I said, "You don't want to end up like this, so take care of yourself. Take it serious."
Right. No. I was going to try to get back to that thought, but you did it very well. And I actually think that's a good place to stop, because I think I'd like that to be what people remember after listening to you. You have a great story, and your outlook is amazing, and the way you made it through and had to figure out so many things for yourself as time went on. It's very, it's laudable that you figured it out. I hope you know that it's not, that it's not something everybody would have gotten done. Like you really did fight through something,
Well, but by the grace of God.
Yeah, but we don't want people needing to fight through it. So,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to get to this point. Like, let's say it would be nice to know you're this tough, but let's not have to prove it to anybody. Yeah, would have been better to use that time and effort on something else. But that image of you, shipping the solution to a motel so you could go visit somebody, that was really powerful. Like when you were talking about that, I thought, my gosh, I never thought about that. Yeah. That's really something. Wow. Is there anything I didn't ask you, Louis, that you think I should have?
No, I think we covered almost everything. I told my life story here.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I can't wait for people to hear it.
I hope it helps somebody, and certainly anybody that ever wants to call me or talk to me, you can give them, that information, and I'll talk to anybody about diabetes, because and that may be why I'm still alive. God wants me to help people.
Well, I have a Facebook group, I'm assuming your daughter-in-law knows about, that is, it's got like 35,000 people in it. So when I put your episode up, I'll make a post in there as well. And if people want to ask you questions, they can ask right there.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that. Okay. Wow. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me. Thank you very much.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and I admire what you're doing. I mean, I just honestly admire what you're doing, because as I started this podcast, I told you we lacked knowledge in our family, and that's what you're doing. You're providing knowledge for people like my family to better manage diabetes.
I appreciate you saying that. It's my pleasure. In full transparency, I started figuring these things out for my daughter, and I started to write online about it years ago because I was trying to drive money to research. And then I noticed one day that the way I talked about insulin, people seemed to resonate with it. and it was working for my daughter. And I thought, I bet you could work for other people too this way. And so we just kept sharing it, and it kept growing. And I can't tell you how I got a note from a lady last night about her child's diagnosis day and how they found the podcast in the hospital that night, and then had shared what happened to them going forward and how well they were doing. And it caught me at the end of the day. I was reading it in bed, and my wife's like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, are you going to cry?" And I said, "I think so." Because it's I was just so happy for that little girl and her family. And
Right.
and there's that part where you can't believe that something you did or said found a stranger and helped them. I mean, think about it. You're being helped because, I mean, for a number of different reasons, but specific to the podcast, your son and his wife have a child with type 1, and they start learning about it for him, and then turn to you and say, "Hey, we're learning about a lot of these things. I think that might help you as well." And
It did.
you know,
Like I said, my daughter-in-law, for many reasons, is a saint to our family.
You know what I wanted to ask you that I didn't, how's your heart?
Good.
And that's crazy, right? The kidneys went, but you're sharp as a tack and your heart is okay. And it's interesting, right? That it didn't.
I've been very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
I remember a doctor telling me, because I had to take a complete physical, everything, before the transplant. And I remember the doctor told me, he said, "Boy, you got a heart like a horse."
Good for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It just hit me now because I mean, Lou, you don't know this, but my best friend growing up, and I'm old now too, I'm 51, but growing up when I was 18, my best friend got type 1 diabetes. He's no longer with us.
Gosh.
He was on dialysis at the end of his life and had a massive heart attack a number of years into it. And that's what made me, like, I thought that was so interesting that your kidneys had the issue, but the rest of you seems okay. It's really,
yeah. I'm fortunate in that aspect.
Yeah. I mean, and just talking to you, I know this sucks to hear because when you don't think, nobody thinks of themselves as their age, but I mean, you're 70 and you and I are talking, you're not pausing. You're not like, you know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Like and with all that high blood sugar is what I mean. Like, age plus high blood sugar, and you don't have a deficit like that at all.
Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
Well, I did a tour in the Marine Corps, so I think I attribute it to that.
You just don't want to give up, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did you were you in the Marines during a conflict or peacetime?
I was during the Vietnam era. I served in the Philippines.
No kidding.
Yeah, wow. I was with Marine Barracks in Subic Bay.
How old were you when you got shipped there?
I was 18.
Wow. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Yeah, I was the last draft, 1971. I was the very last draft.
Louis, that's the year I was born, 71.
Really?
Yeah, 71.
Oh, ironic.
No, that's crazy. How long were you there?
2 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Did you know your wife?
And it was a great tour. I was there with a detachment in March of 73. I got to go with a detachment where the prisoners of war from Vietnam flew into Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. And so I was there, and McCain was the third one off the plane. Alvarez was the very first one off the plane. It was quite a sight. It was just quite a sight when the POWs landed in Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines.
Louis, you were there when John McCain was returned?
Yes.
No kidding. Oh, that's astonishing.
Yeah.
He was beat up, huh? Bad.
I wasn't as close to the plane as I wanted to be because I was part of this group of Marines, but it was quite a day for me.
Did their return feel like the return of hope, like the end of something, the beginning of something new? How would you describe why it was such a big day?
Just proud that they had survived. Just proud that an American survived that torture and that imprisonment. So it was just, I think, the pride of every serviceman.
Did it leave you with the feeling that anything was possible? You could do anything?
Oh yeah, if they could survive that, my gosh, you could do anything.
It makes me wonder how much of you being there that day has to do with how hard you're fighting with the diabetes and everything. You know what I mean?
Golly, can you imagine what they went through?
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's hard to talk about it. And even harder when you think back to the moment when they tried to let him go and he said no, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed.
Yeah. What's the story there? They found out his father was a high-ranking official, so they offered to let him go, and he stayed behind with the men he was serving with instead. Is that right?
I believe so. I don't know all the details involved with him being released, but the important thing is he chose to stay and continue.
No, that's absolutely. I mean, I don't know. It takes quite a person to make a decision like that. So obviously he was doing it for other people as well. And we talked about that earlier, right? You can do You can do a lot when you're doing it for somebody else. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Louis, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure.
This has been great therapy for me. Thank you.
Oh, good. I should take this act on the road, just sit in diners and talk to people. Oh, that's not a bad idea, Louis. Maybe I'll get a microphone and just start going into diners and asking people questions. That'd be fun. Yeah. No one steal my idea.
Hey, well, listen, God bless you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Vaya con Dios.
I don't know what that means.
Vaya, go, con, with, Dios, God.
Thank you.
No. Vaya con Dios.
I appreciate the good thoughts. I really do. I'm happy to be making this podcast. I'm going to keep doing it. So don't worry about that. I'm going to
be listening to you.
I appreciate it, Louis. Hold on 1 second for me. Okay.
All right.
All right. Everyone calls him Big Lou, and I want to thank him very much for coming on the show and sharing such a fantastic story. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. I also want to thank Omnipod, makers of the Omnipod 5 and Omnipod DASH. Omnipod.com/juicebox. When you click on my links, you're supporting the show, keeping it free and plentiful. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.